Better Life Media, America's leading source for life improvement, presents Stephen Covey. The 8th Habit, from effectiveness to greatness.
It was a dark and stormy night. Captain, wake up. Oh, what is it? Sorry to waken you, sir, but we have a serious problem. Well, what is it? There's a ship in our sea lane about 20 miles away, and they refuse to move. Tell them to move. Sir, we have. They won't move. I'll tell them. Signal goes out. Move starboard 20 degrees at once. The signal returns. Move starboard yourself 20 degrees at once. I can't believe this. I mean, I'm a captain. Let them know who I am. I am important. Signal goes out. This is Captain Horatio Hornblower, the 26th, commanding you to move starboard 20 degrees at once. Signal returns. This is Seaman Carl Jones III, commanding you to move starboard 20 degrees at once. What arrogance. Who is this joker? I mean, we're a battleship. We could just blow them. Let them know who we are. Signal goes out. This is the mighty Missouri, flagship of the 7th Fleet. The signal returns. This is the lighthouse. That's a true story, by the way. It's found in the Naval Proceedings Manual, where they literally interpreted a lighthouse to be a ship. But I like the story because it helps me introduce this subject, that there are laws of nature or lighthouse principles that govern life. We think we govern it. We may let our values govern our behavior, but the consequences of that behavior is governed by those lighthouse principles. One of which is that there are 4 parts to our nature: our body, our mind, our heart, and our spirit. And that all 4 parts represent 4 capabilities, 4 needs, 4 intelligences, 4 dimensions that need to be honored and respected and integrated and put into a synergistic whole. In doing so, it can help a person find his or her voice and also inspire others to find his or her voice. Voice is when your talent and your passion, what you're good at and what you love doing, overlaps what the world needs. What can drive your economic engine? Or if you're in a not-for-profit, what adds value? What contributes? As driven by conscience, body, mind, heart, and spirit. All 4 integrated together. Now, we need to look at what is it that enables us to discover, to find our voice. But let me tell you 5 things that do not. These are what I call the 5 metastasizing emotional cancers. And if you get involved in these 5 things, I will guarantee you it will create such static and such compartmentalization inside your nature, you will never really find your voice. The attitude and spirit of criticism, of comparing, of complaining, of competing for a sense of your own worth, and of contending. That is a mean spirit kind of argument, kind of a contention. These are 5 metastasizing cancers. Criticizing, complaining, comparing, competing, not in a basketball game or in a marketplace, but competing for a sense of personal worth, and then contending. The spirit of contention. Now, if you want to see how serious this problem is, watch the raise of hands right here in this group of many, many hundreds of people. Think carefully about this question. How many seriously believe that the vast majority of the workforce in your organizations possess more talent, more capability, more creativity, etc., than their present jobs require or even allow them to use? How many agree? Now look around. Look around. That's literally almost every hand. And the finding that we have all around the world, a profound alienation, disempowerment of the workforce in organizations. People have not found their voice. There is no passion, which necessitates external motivation, supervision, psych up, hovering over, check up. The whole panoply of techniques used by the industrial age. Now, how many also feel a lot of pressure to produce more for less? Look, same hands. Now just put those questions side by side. I mean, just look at those 2 questions. Here's all this capability, this talent, this capacity, and this tremendous need to produce, and we can't even use it. Okay, let's look at how we develop our voice and how we inspire others to find their voices and to use them in the new knowledge economy. This is what I call the 8th habit. It builds upon the other 7, but it is like the 3rd dimension to the other 7. Find your voice and inspire others to find theirs. Okay, let's go back to nature. These are birth gifts. There are 3 of them, basically. They're right into our DNA. Here's a listing of them. First, our freedom and power to choose. Second, principles that are universal. That means they apply everywhere. I've taught them in 60 different countries all around this world. Timeless, they never change, and self-evident. Here is an illustration of a self-evident principle. You can never really sustain a trust in a relationship if you are not trustworthy. Have you ever tried to talk yourself out of a problem you behaved yourself into? How did it go? Have you ever seen a company try to PR itself out of a problem it behaved itself into? How did that go? See, these are universal, self-evident principles, non-controversial. And third, 4 parts to our nature, 4 intelligences, 4 capacities: body, mind, heart, and spirit. These are hardwired into our very nature. IQ, that's for the mind. EQ, that is emotional, social intelligence. That comes from self-awareness, and it also comes from awareness of others, the ability to listen, to care, to empathize, to relate. These are social skills. PQ is the intelligence of the body. 70 trillion cells that have such brilliance that right now they're digesting your lunch and you're doing nothing about it. They're fighting disease. They're trying to do everything they can to protect your organism. It's absolutely a brilliant machine. Nothing like it ever created by man. And then finally, SQ, spiritual intelligence, which basically deals with two things. One, the need to serve, the need for meaning, the need for significance, the need for contribution, the need to add value. And two, that you live by your conscience, that you live by these principles, these universal, timeless principles, and have connection to their ultimate source. Those two represent what is called spiritual intelligence. Let's contrast those last three intelligences. In fact, the first two and the last one. Here is a quote on spiritual intelligence. Unlike IQ, which computers have, and EQ, which exists in higher mammals, SQ is uniquely human and the most fundamental of the three. It is linked to humanity's need for meaning, an issue very much at the forefront of people's minds. SQ is what we use to develop our longing and capacity for meaning, vision, and value. It allows us to dream and to strive. It underlies the things we believe in and the role our beliefs and values play in the actions we take. It is, in essence, what makes us human. It used to be fringy, no longer. Major research on spiritual intelligence has brought it into mainstream to understand that a whole person has four basic needs: to live for the body, to love for the heart, that's relationships, to learn for the mind, and to leave a legacy, to matter, to contribute. This is what a whole person in a whole job does. This is enabling them to find their voice in their job. Same basic underlying four dimensions: body, mind, heart, and spirit. For the mind, use me creatively. For the body, pay me fairly. For the heart, treat me kindly. And for the spirit, in serving human needs in principled ways. Now notice the two aspects there. Meaningfulness, we have a deep hunger for meaning. The why behind the what and the how. He who has a why can live with any what and how. And to live with integrity. To live by one's conscience. Now, each one of those need to be cultivated and developed. Body, mind, heart, and spirit. You basically know some of the principles of developing the body, mind, heart, and spirit. How to keep the body healthy, strong. The mind alive, alert, learning, turning much of the television completely off, getting back to books. Learn, deepen your knowledge in broad fields, outside your own comfort zone. Learning to rebuild relationships that you care a lot about, that are wounded. That takes tremendous emotional power and spiritual power. You care about those people. And to constantly make contributions, to give back. Service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living upon this earth. Those four are constant, deep hungers and needs in us all. Work on these four assumptions. They deal with the four parts of our nature. For the body, assume you've had a heart attack. Now live accordingly. For the heart, assume that everything you say about another person they can overhear. Now speak accordingly. Always be loyal to the absent if you want to retain the loyalty of those who are present. Integrity means you live by the same set of principles in the totality of your life. For the mind, assume the half-life of your profession is 2 years. Now prepare accordingly. As we move into this knowledge economy in great speed, the constant need to invest in your education, experiences like this, online education, getting back in the different training programs, school, constant need for it. And then for the spirit, assume you had a one-on-one communication with your Creator. Now live accordingly. The cultivation of these 4 parts to our nature develops at its highest level what I call vision for the mind. Vision means you have the sense of what's out there. You cannot see it, but you see it in your mind's eye. You see the potential in another person. I mean, think on this. How many of you have achieved the level of success you've achieved partly because, or even largely because, someone believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself? Now look at the hands. Look at the hands. That's like half the group. If we were to ask those people to respond, their stories would bring you to tears. They really would. These are people who others helped find their voice by affirming their worth and potential when they did not believe in themselves. Vision, discipline, the power to subordinate what you want now to what you want eventually. I mean, no one on their deathbed ever wished they spent more time at the office or watching television. I've studied the deathbed research. It's all about families, loved ones, contribution, and the contribution that they are making. Even Abraham Maslow transcended his own need hierarchy theory on his deathbed, saying self-actualization is not where it's at. It's self-transcendence. It's what my kids are about, and their kids. And then for the heart, passion. You feel strong about it. You're convicted. And for the spirit, conscience. These are the highest manifestations of the 4 intelligences. Vision, discipline, passion, and conscience. And when the first 3 are governed by conscience, I'll guarantee you, it will change the world. It will lift the world. Compare a Gandhi with a Hitler. What one word separates those 2 individuals from what you see up here on the slide? It's conscience. Because both were visionaries, disciplined, and passionate. And Gandhi not only had conscience, in his vision, he saw an independent India, way beyond the vision and scope of the people of India. And he brought England to its knees, liberated 300 million Indians, and never was elected to any office. He never held a position. His authority was moral. He had no formal authority. It was moral authority. That is the essence of leadership. Management is formal authority. Management is position. Leadership is moral authority. Leadership is a choice. And anybody can exercise it at any level. I wrote an entire book on living the 7 habits that had nothing but stories in it, almost all of which dealt with people who changed their organizations at the bottom level or the middle level with no formal authority at all. They were what I like to call trim tabbers. Trim tabbers, the small rudder that turns the big rudder that turns the entire ship. This trim tabbing idea is so powerful to me. The small rudder that turns the big rudder that turns the entire ship. You just start in your own small circle of influence, and gradually it gets larger and larger through the power of your moral authority. And it can impact the entire ship. It's a threatening idea, though, because it means we are responsible. We do have the freedom and power to choose our response in any given set of circumstances. And it causes us to be very creative, because we're not fearful of risks. We're not running scared of people's opinions. We don't grow up with a comparison-based identity where our sense of worth comes from how well we stack up to others. It comes from our integrity to our conscience and to principles that are deeply embedded within us. And it gives an internal source of security. So you're no longer dependent upon opinion or position or address or status or fashion. It's enormously emancipating and freeing to then give yourself and to make a difference, to become a trim-tabber. Let's look at the question, why is this 8th habit so relevant today? Why is it any really different than just another habit in degree to the other 7? The 7 Habits was published in 1989. That was also the same year that the Berlin Wall came down, and is generally considered the beginning of the information age. So I'd like to put that into perspective, into a larger historical perspective, in order to answer my question, why an 8th habit? In what way is that the 3rd dimension to the other 7? Here are 5 civilization eras, economic eras of humankind. And the technology is shown in each era. Hunters and gatherers, bow and arrow being the technology, the fulcrum's in the center, put in 1 unit of effort. You catch 1 fish, you get 1 deer, you gather so many seeds, nuts, whatever, okay? You became a farmer. The fulcrum went over there a long ways so that you put in 1 unit of effort and you get out 50 units of productivity. Can you imagine the social dislocation of 95% of the people being downsized? Imagine the new skill set they would have to learn, the new mindset, the new tool set. The industrial age. It put the fulcrum way over there so that the industrial age outproduces the agricultural age 50 times. Specialization, mass production, efficiency, supply side management. So many marvelous things. And on that basis has come most of the economic and social progress of the entire 20th century. It comes from the industrial age. In fact, the farmers adopted the industrial model. And that's why an industrialized farm will outproduce a family farm 50 times. A little over 2.5%, 3% of the people in this country feed the entire country. Imagine the social dislocation again. Imagine the downsizing, the re-education, the retooling. Can you begin to get the sense of what I'm talking about? Because we move now into the information, knowledge worker age. It's a whole different world. Literally. It's no longer a world of controlling people. It's a world of unleashing people. I mean, take the accounting concept that came from the industrial age model. You are an expense. Coming to this, participating in this, is an expense. But if you buy a machine, what's that called? An investment. Isn't that interesting? People are an expense, things are an investment. That's the paradigm of the industrial model. And because most people are alienated and disempowered, then it puts the responsibility on who to do the so-called leadership and management? Those with formal authority. How do they do it? They carrot and stick them. Here's the carrot, here's the stick. If you produce, you get the carrot. If you don't, you get the stick. It's called the great jackass theory of human motivation. and causes profound alienation. I'll show you what else it causes. Close your eyes for a second, wherever you are watching this. Point, close your eyes, but don't peek. Point north, don't peek. Okay, now open your eyes and look around and see where people are pointing. I mean, look, literally. That way, this way, straight up, that way, this way. I mean, just look at the people right around you. Do you want to have the same exact experience? Try it. Go to any group, any department in your organization that you work with. Or go to the top executive team. Just walk in and say, what's the number one high priority goal? And just see what they say. What's number one? Write them down. I'll guarantee it'll be just like pointing north. Well, if that is the case, and a person's purpose and value system and their priority goals drive every other decision, is there any wonder there is such profound misalignment? Just watch the difference as you go into any business, whether they're into the industrial age model or the knowledge worker age model. I'll guarantee you, it will be so vast. The one is so superior over the other. This is a little film we put together to communicate some of this data. We just did this in a soccer field just behind my home. These are some of our employees. It's called Goal.
Remember? No, not that thing. The other thing we practiced.
Out on the wing. Trent, I want you to fake the pass to Andy and push the ball up the field, and then pass the ball to your forwards who are Sophie and Chris. Sophie, I want you to hold the ball and draw the defense out to you, all right? Then I want you to float a long pass all the way over the defense to Chris. Chris, you take it in for the score, just like we did in practice. Everybody got it? Let's go get him!
Do you see any similarities between Saturday morning soccer and Monday morning at the office? I mean, think about it. Too often, teams and organizations are unclear about the goals their top priorities really are. Coaches and players are simply not on the same page. What you get is everyone just kind of running around in all directions instead of working together toward the same goal. The inability to take high-level goals and strategies of an organization and then to translate those into action is a major problem in most organizations. It's one thing to come up with great strategies and goals, but it's quite another to actually get them done. This is what we could call the execution gap. In a landmark study done by the Harris Polling Group,
we discovered some revealing statistics as to why execution breaks down and why goals aren't translated into action on the front line. First finding, only 15% of those surveyed can actually identify their organization's most important goals or top priorities. Either there are too many goals, or they change too often, or they simply don't have any. And in most cases, they are vastly undercommunicated. Just because the leaders are clear on what they want to achieve, it doesn't necessarily mean that the front line where the action really happens knows what the goals are. After all, in a very real sense, the front line produces the bottom line. Second, people may know what the goals are, but too often they haven't bought into them. Only 19% surveyed say that they feel passionate about the top goals of their organizations. That's only 1 in 5. There are a number of reasons for this, but the primary one is that they feel no ownership. They don't feel that they have input into what it's going to take to achieve the goal. They simply aren't emotionally connected to the goal. No involvement, no commitment. Third, those surveyed reported that they spend only 49% of their available work hours on their most important goals. The rest of the time is spent on urgent, but far less important activities. They get so distracted by urgent things that they neglect the most important things. Finally, people might know what the goals and top priorities are. They might even buy into them, but they don't know what they are supposed to do about them. In fact, 51% state that they personally do not understand what they are supposed to do to help the organization achieve its goals. Goals will not be executed until everyone clearly understands what the goal is and what they themselves specifically need to do to meet that goal. Once people are clear on what the goal is, then and only then are they free to try new and better ways to reach that goal. So the point is, to achieve goals you've never achieved before, you simply need to start doing things you've never done before. You might ask, is it possible to dramatically and measurably improve your team's ability to reach its goals? Can it really happen? My answer is absolutely. Just imagine the impact when everyone on the team is crystal clear about what the goals are. Imagine the energy and creativity that would be unleashed when everyone in the organization is committed and involved in achieving the goals. Consider the economic impact when everyone on the team is spending the majority of their time on top priorities. Just think what can be accomplished when every player on the team knows exactly what to do. The possibilities, my friends, are limitless. The best deterrent in nature is light. The best deterrent in organizational life is real-time information that is given to everybody. And that's what the new technology enables us to do. And you can literally clean a culture to where you get the 5th level, which is the principle level. That's illustrated by the compass. That's the age of wisdom, to bring principles that come from all of these different ages. Now, this is called the Indian talking stick. It was given to me by Indian chiefs after training them for several days. They run Indian nations in North America, the States and Canada. They even gave me my name, Bald Eagle. It's authentic, specially carved, beautiful. But you could use a pencil, you could use a spoon, a conch, anything. The whole idea of it, and they taught this to the founding fathers, most powerful communication idea and technique I have ever found, ever. How many are frequently in meetings where you can just feel the hidden agendas operating? How would you like to break that down fast? How would you like to heal divisions in your own family? Two kids that are quarreling with each other. Just do this. You just go up and you say to the other person, you've got the talking stick. I can't say anything. Maybe I can ask a question to see if I do understand your point, but I can't make my point. I can't agree. I can't disagree. All I can do is communicate until you feel understood. As soon as you feel understood on your point, then you pass the talking stick or pencil or whatever to me. Now it is my turn. And you are quiet and you listen with empathy until I feel understood. As soon as I feel understood, I pass it back to you. Until you feel understood, then you pass it back to me. Now what happens is literally it transforms defensive, negative energy into creative, transforming energy. Here's why. When you really listen to another in depth until they feel understood, you are communicating their worth, their potential. You are affirming them. It is so therapeutic, so healing, that they cannot fight you. And they gradually become more and more open. Try it tonight with your loved one. You see two kids fighting? Just walk up to the smaller one and say, honey, you've got the pencil. No one can talk until you feel understood. And then, as soon as you feel understood, and we make your point to your satisfaction, then you pass it to your older sister or brother. Just try it. You think it takes time? It will save so much time. And in your meetings that you go to, basically you say, let's agree to the simple ground rule that no one can make their point until they restate the other person's point to his or her satisfaction. You see, what this does, it enables you to co-mission. So as you're listening to people back and forth, we come up with a we solution. Do you know that the Iroquois Foundation or Federation of Indians taught this to the founding fathers of our country? I am absolutely convinced that impact of what took place in the miracle in Philadelphia and in the creation of this magnificent country with 4.5% of the world's population producing about 30% of the world's goods. There's nothing like it in the history. Because of the institutionalization of these principles inside the Constitution. Now, I want to suggest 3 challenges. I'm going to put these inside 3 circles. The first circle we'll call personal greatness. The next circle, leadership greatness. And the third circle, organizational greatness. Under personal greatness, I would put the 7 habits leading to finding your voice and inspiring others to find their voice. Only this part, since it's personal, is to find your own voice. I know when I was 20, someone asked me to do management training. Gave me my whole voice for my entire life. I was planning to go into a family business, and I had geared myself to it, but I found such a passion in the other direction. Leadership greatness. Modeling the 7 habits leading to the 8th habit of inspiring others to find their voice, affirming them. Leadership is basically communicating people's worth and potential so clearly they come to see it in themselves. Under organizational greatness, mission, vision, values. Now put up the word co-missioning. And at the center, execution. Now, the 3 challenges are these. Get your head out of other people's weaknesses or out of your boss's weaknesses. Don't be sitting here saying, well, this is good stuff, but the person who really needs it isn't here. You are a trim tabber. Take responsibility. Create a culture of responsibility, not blame. The whole purpose of leadership effectiveness is to empower other people so that you help them find their voice. And they are in positions, as Jim Collins puts it, in the right place on the right bus. And then their strength is made productive and their weakness is made irrelevant through the strength of other people because of developing a complementary team. Commissioning, the great tool of bringing together the mission of individuals with the mission of organizations, I suggest, is the use of this kind of communication illustrated by the Indian talking stick. Now, I wanted to show one final little 2-minute film that gives the basic underlying lighthouse principle of a whole person. The 4 basic needs: to live, to love, to learn, to leave a legacy. In summary, put up, if you would, the 7 habits diagram with the 8th habit as the 3rd dimension. Find your voice and inspire others to find theirs. This is a totality of thinking for a knowledge worker age. If you want to get the most from this presentation, teach it at home and at work shortly after you learn it. In doing so, you will learn it better, you'll commit to live it more, and it will make your own growth and change legitimate in other people's eyes because they see you actually learning. And remember also the 3 challenges: trim tab, empower, commission. And remember finally, in the words of Teilhard Chardin,
We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.